All right. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar about reducing food waste with two presenters from Don't Waste Food SC. My name is Rebecca Antle. I am the Youth Services Consultant for the South Carolina State Library. And this program is kind of offered in part by the grant project that we're doing with the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. So we've got several of our folks that are involved in that here on the webinar with us today. And I know we are going to have lots of fun. So Amanda and Ada, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca. I'm Amanda.
I'm Ada.
And we are together at my house, so we are masked. But hopefully if a couple of you could just give a thumbs up that you can hear us fine. All right, cool. I see 1, 2, awesome. Yay. We're good. Okay. So we work with the Department of Health and Environmental Control in the Office of Solid Waste Reduction and Recycling. That's a whole lot of words. Basically, we work for the recycling office at DHEC. And part of our job includes this campaign, which is Don't Waste Food SC. We're going to talk a little bit about reducing food waste today in relationship to healthy soil. If you hear my dog, he's just being a jerk today. Sorry about that. All right, so you can see my screen. There we are. This is my house and my garden. And really, this is just to show you that it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see it's kind of a mess sometimes. But also to let you know that everything that we are doing today and everything we're going to try are things that Ada and I have tried ourselves.
Awesome. So just to back up real quick, Don't Waste Food SC is a campaign basically to tackle the problem of wasted food. Selfishly, being in the recycling office, we want to get that out of the landfill because that counts towards our state's recycling rate. Turning that into compost or just reducing in general is awesome. But what we realized is that food waste is something that affects everyone, and it's something that everyone can do something about. So for our basis, what we did was we started with the EPA's food recovery hierarchy. And they have, you can see they have lots of different things on their hierarchy. We focus on 3 things that we think that everyone can take part in, which is prevention, donation, and composting. You'll see here they talk about feeding animals, and that, you know, sometimes we can manage that. Like here, Leroy's eating a cucumber that I wasn't going to eat. But sometimes, you know, things like anaerobic digesting or feeding a whole farm of animals isn't something that you and I can do very easily. So we focus on a few other things that everyone can do.
So as Ada mentioned, we focus on donation, prevention, donation, and composting. But today we're going to keep it to prevention, and then of course mostly on composting, talking about that healthy soil.
So to begin with, to start, if you grow anything, like if you have a tiny little garden, if you have 1 pot on your porch, it's important in order to avoid waste to know what it is you're growing. Different plants need different things, different amounts of sunlight, different amounts of water, different nutrients. So just do a little research before you grow something to make sure that you're not just going to waste it.
And if you find yourself in an abundance of extra produce, then know that we at DHEC do encourage donation. A lot of times we get asked the question, is donation legal? Can my business donate? Can my school donate? Of course, you absolutely can. And you are protected by the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, which is a federal act. There are also South Carolina state laws that mirror that same language, which is a second level of protection for liability. Of course, you have to be donating to a nonprofit in good faith. But all in all, we do encourage donation. Just check with your local food bank, soup kitchen, pantry, shelter, whoever you're wanting to donate to, and make sure they can take what you have to offer.
All right, so a little more on the prevention front, guys. We want to get you involved. Just take a minute and look at this picture and tell us what is wrong with it.
So we're going to play a fun game, and you're going to get a minute to look at it.
And a dance break.
All right, so anybody want to unmute and give me what's wrong with this picture? Any guesses?
I have a guess, but
Okay, give it to us.
they're all fruit.
That is a true statement, yes.
Actually, yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess technically they are.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's not what's wrong with the picture though. But
Okay.
let us tell you what's wrong with this. While we think this is a beautiful basket of produce and you want this sitting on your counter, it looks nice, there's actually some things wrong.
The first thing is location. Not everything that's in this basket should be in a basket together.
Second thing, location. We have heavy produce on top of more delicate fruits and veggies. Well, I guess we've now covered they're all fruit,
All fruit.
but anyway, you don't want to put the heavy stuff on top for sure.
And the other thing is location. Some of these items belong in the refrigerator, in a few different places in the refrigerator. So not everything should go all together on top of each other on the counter.
So while this basket is aesthetically pleasing, it is the quickest way to create food waste in your kitchen because it's going to make those things go bad super fast.
So this is one resource that we developed just to touch very lightly on the science behind why food goes bad so quickly, particularly produce. Fruits and veggies create a gas called ethylene. That's the gas that makes them ripen. So it's what we love when we get a whole bag of pears and they're all super hard. We want that ethylene, but it's what we hate the day that they all get ripe at the same time. And then when we go to eat them, they're mush. So there are certain things you want to put together, certain things you don't want to put together. This is available on our website. You can print it and stick it on your fridge or in the door of your cabinet, wherever it'll help you to remember, don't put your apples with your avocados.
So let's talk about a little bit better placement of those fruit items. So for one, those bananas, we want to hang them. You don't want to rest them. They bruise easy. Another quick tip to keep them from ripening so fast is to put some cellophane or saran wrap around the top of them. A couple of other things, citrus should go in the fridge. Keep it in the drawer. It stays nice and fresh there. Plums, if they're already ripe, you can put them in your low humidity drawer in a paper bag. We'll just kind of go through a few of these. I want to get to the most.
Oh, it looks like a little bear.
All right, so the number
Give the
one
dog
question
some
we get about the
exercise.
produce is tomatoes. So tomatoes is a hard one. We do participate every year in the Tasty Tomato Festival, and we're always asked, how do you save those tomatoes? Well, for one, know how to store them. So if they're unripe, they belong on the counter. Yep, that was a hard one for me to get used to. But once they get ripe is when you want to put them in the fridge. And these are just easy ways to keep you from having to throw out rotten tomatoes sooner than you wanted to, and you can actually get to use them. And again, this is also on our website. So if I'm flying through these too fast, don't worry. All of this is on our website and you can print it. All right, so is ugly bad? Hopefully all of you are shaking your head no. Ugly produce is actually good. So whether you're growing it or getting it out of the grocery store, still use it. It doesn't mean it has to be wasted.
Right. And if you go to the store, it's really unlikely that you're going to see something like that pepper you just saw, because they won't even put it on the shelf because they assume you won't buy it. So prove them wrong. At the same time, if you grow something or you go to the store and you find something that's bruised, we want you to learn to pare, as in cut out the bad spots. It's very unlikely, unless you squeeze something and it squishes in your hand, that the whole thing's going to be bad just because it has one little imperfection. So focus on paring. Get it? Pears.
Yeah, we like jokes. All right, so another one of our favorite ones is get hydrated. So for me, like this celery, I took this celery out of my fridge day before yesterday, and literally it was like floppy. You can see it's not floppy anymore. All I did was trim it, put it in some water, I don't know if you can tell, but the water is down to here now. That's how much water my celery drank. And you can see it's crisp and ready to be chopped now. I don't like floppy celery, but you can do that with any vegetable, really, greens, especially lettuce, carrots even, just trim them a little, put them in some water, give them some time, and that hydration will crisp them right back up for you to use instead of having to throw them out.
Cool. So we have done everything we can to reduce food waste, right?
Wrong.
No.
So we're not quite ready to compost yet, guys. A few more things we can do, prevention, or possibly even some other cool ideas.
So one thing that we are super big fans of is canning. There are other things you could do like dehydrating. I'm not super familiar with those, so I'm going to stick with canning and show you what I do. I love peppers. I love spicy peppers. I know a lot of people who do. So I make hot sauces. I make pepper vinegar. I make pepper jelly. You can see blueberry preserves, peach preserves, and a boatload of pickles. This is all stuff that I have done that I keep at my house. I keep it at a nice little bookshelf in the hallway away from sunlight. And then at Christmas time, everybody gets a basket full of what I wouldn't have been able to eat otherwise.
All right, so there's other things that we can do as well, like making and trying new recipes to keep from throwing things away. Yeah, just like that. All right, so here we're making some chimichurri. So you can see that we use the tops of the carrots. We're using the peppers. We're using celery. What you'll notice though is Ada is not cutting off the stems, the root, or any of the little spots, because while if you were going to use these on a platter and you needed it to be all pretty, that's one thing. These are going to go in a food processor. So all of that stuff provides fiber and nutrients that are still usable and healthy. So here you can see it's going in the food processor. We're chopping it all up. This was just extra vegetables that we weren't going to use. And so we figured out, let's make something else then. You can see that's great for veggie dip, marinades, topping. You can go on meat. It tastes really good on meat. Here's the catch. Put it in a glass bowl. Make sure it has a lid. Put it in your freezer. So whenever you need something new to try for dinner, all those vegetables that you were going to throw out, you now have this fancy topping.
Also, fun fact, do you have carrots that have the stem still on them? Very, very good substitute for parsley.
Right. All right, so let's talk about some other quick things we can do so we can get into this composting.
There are a lot of vegetables that when you cut off the ends of them, you can regrow them. Green onions are a very good example of that. You can see a sweet potato over there. Most herbs, if you just cut off the bottom half, you can regenerate them. Just and then you can plant it in your garden, just like we did in Amanda's garden outside.
So here you can see Ada's chopping some spring onions. You actually don't even have to put those in water first. You can just put them straight into the ground, put some water on them, and they'll continue to grow. The great part about this little garden is it's not far from our grill. So my husband loves to just chop those spring onions right off and put them right on the grill. And then they just keep growing back. So here you can see the after those, you saw what we put in, and then that's the celery on the right and that leek on the left. Everything grew back pretty big and great. So nothing was wasted that day.
Yeah, this was a while ago, and we checked on them today, and those green onions have come back up again.
Again and again, yeah. And so here's another example.
Oh yeah, so when you're cleaning your veggies to use, you can also save those seeds. You just want to clean them up a little bit. You can dry them out and just put them in some tiny bags. And then you can grow your own later on. And don't forget, we're going to compost later, so save any of the scraps that you're not going to eat.
And so these are in my garden as well. These were regrown from seeds that we saved.
Yeah.
So, okay, I know you're probably thinking like, oh, you're saving seeds. Like that's not keeping a whole lot out of the landfill, right? But if you think about everyone on your street or everyone in your neighborhood, if they stopped throwing away just the parts of the vegetables that they weren't going to use, whatever, you could also make vegetable stock. But all of that, if we stopped throwing it away, think about how much that would add up that's not going into the landfill. And then also, if you're not going to make something out of those things, they're also great to go in your compost. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So just remember, if you want good compost, what you put in is what you're going to get out. If you put in good nutrients, you're going to get good nutrients out to go into your soil and into your garden. So let's start here. We're going to do a couple of demonstrations. You guys should have the PDFs for these. I don't know if you save materials and you're going to do them with us, maybe.
Yeah.
If not, we're going to do it a sort of a speed version so we don't run out of time. We're going to do two different things. So I'm going to start by explaining, basically, we want to talk about why we want to talk about
Zoom is stuck.
Why good soil matters.
All right, so
we're going to reorient the camera just real quick.
While you're doing that, we have in the chat about your canning recipes, Ada.
Perfect.
I don't know what's going on with Zoom.
Oh, we might be fluctuating between hearing you and not hearing you, I'm thinking.
Can you hear us okay?
We can hear you. We
Okay.
can't see you yet. Did we just lose them completely? I think we did. Okay, so pause for station identification. We will work on getting the canning recipes when they come back. I would love to do some canning demonstrations this summer. It just depends on how terrified everyone is of pressure canning. Although I'm comfortable doing both now, so I can do pressure or hot water bath. And Michelle, so do I. So Michelle commented that she really likes thinking about how we can produce less trash. And food waste makes up, it's a ridiculously high majority. I think it's like 60 to 70% of what goes into our landfills is food waste, which is absurd because it's all compostable. That's all on us. Like there are certain things that, you know, the businesses use a lot of plastic and packaging and all of these other things that we can't necessarily control. But we can we have complete control over how much food we waste. That's all on us. So yes, and being more aware of that can save you so much money. And Fran just got a compost bin, which is super cool. Is it one of the ones that you like turn and it turns over? I've always wanted one of those. And I'm waiting to hear from Amanda. Hopefully they didn't completely drop off the face of the earth. Yeah, permaculture, worm farming, stirring up compost is always good. There they are. There's our ladies back again. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up right where we left off.
Hey guys, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. Hello, hello.
I'm so sorry.
All right, all right. Of course, the one time it's going to happen is when we have you on with us. All right.
fine. It's all suspense because Grady wanted to be on camera.
It was all about letting the dog out.
Sorry, guys.
But, all right, so we're gonna change camera position here a little bit so you can see our live demonstration.
Okay, so for starters,
sorry.
no, you're fine. We're gonna have some different camera angles here. So this is the first one about basically we're gonna show the difference between healthy soil and unhealthy soil, and then we're gonna show how to fix unhealthy soil. So you're starting with some flour, just some regular old flour. You're gonna need a little scooper. You don't really need it, but I like to make a nice little mountain when I'm doing this. So I take my flour, and Grady helps me. I just make a little mountain here. You can see that. And this is going to illustrate unhealthy soil. So here in South Carolina, I don't know if you guys do a lot of gardening, but in my yard, we have lots of sand in the soil, and it doesn't take very long for all the nutrients to just get sucked out of it. So that's what we have here with this flour. And then we also have, Amanda was really smart and saved these. They're just some herb and seasoning shakers. So what we've done is we filled this one with water and a little bit of food coloring so that you can see what's going on here. And what that's going to do is that is going to demonstrate, we're going to use this to show you what happens when it rains on this unhealthy soil. So if you can see that, cool. If you watch this, you see that water. What you see is all of it's just running off down here. It's not really soaking in here. If you go to the middle, you're seeing just some clumping, but that's probably not very good for any plants that we're going to put in there, right? So that's our unhealthy soil. And then what we have over here, we just have a couple of slices of bread. This is just an old loaf of bread that I had at home. Nobody was eating, got pushed to the back of the fridge. So what we did was we froze it, Amanda and me, and we saved it for demonstrations like this. So it's food that would be wasted, and now we're using it as a teaching tool, a different way to not waste food. So this is going to symbolize our good soil, healthy soil that has nutrients and has all those microbes and all that good living stuff in it. So then when it rains there, watch what happens. See that? Perfect. Yeah. So if you look at the bottom there, there's not a whole lot coming out, and then it's just soaking up like a sponge. So that's great. That's what you want your soil to do, because then that water gets stuck in there and the roots of all those plants can absorb it. So this can also be, this can also represent your compost, healthy compost that you're making in your backyard. So what we can do is we can take this healthy sponge-like soil and use it to fix all this over here that isn't so great. And when we mix that in to that unhealthy soil, what it's going to do is help trap that water. So then when we have plants in there, they can actually absorb some of it and grow healthy and have all those nutrients in them. So then if it rains again, I don't know why I keep closing this, it's just going to keep raining. You can still see some of it run off, but you see some of it getting soaked into these pieces over here. And that's just like when you stick some compost in and mix it into unhealthy soil. So, yeah, we're good. Now that I'm all messy.
So let's make a compost sample. All right, cool. We're gonna move this out the way. So this is the other activity. We're gonna start with a 2-liter bottle. We've already cut ours, but if you can see, it's not cut all the way through because you want to make a hinge. This is going to be like your compost. I may have to adjust this again.
Just a bit. There you go.
Everybody can see good? All right. What you're going to need for this activity is a bottle. We just cut it, like I said, with the hinge. You're going to also need some soil, just a little bit, because it's going to get us started. You're going to also need some vegetable or food scraps. We're going to talk a little bit more later about what not to put in your compost, but here you can see we have vegetable scraps. We've already minced and chopped ours up, so that way they go into the compost better, they break down faster. And then of course, you're going to need a carbon source, which is browns. So your food is your green source, nitrogen, leaves, shredded newspaper, shredded brown paper towels, anything like that is going to be your carbon source. Now we go in a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 carbons to 1 green. So you're going to need way more of this than you're going to need of this. Okay, so to start off, and this is the part that usually is the fun part, especially if you're teaching kids because they like to get their hands dirty. So we're going to put a little bit of soil into the very bottom. And really, this is just to kind of get us started, get those microbes going, kind of be our base layer. And then we're going to start by putting 1 small layer of food. And you can see there, it's kind of see everything happening. And then we're also going to add a layer of browns. Now in our browns, we have sticks, leaves. There might be some paper towels in the bottom. But keep in mind, you're going to want more browns than green. So your brown layer should be bigger than your greens layer. All right, and you're just going to keep doing this. We're going to put in 1 more layer, greens, kind of sprinkle them in there. And all that's in here is shredded carrots, some tomato pieces that we weren't going to use, some little broccoli chunks that didn't get used. And and we have a few little orange peels. Now you can put orange peels, you just don't want to put a ton of those. All right, and then we're going to take some more of our browns, put it in there. Now I will tell you, the more you crunch these types of things up, especially in this example, the faster they're going to break down. But then,
Amanda, what about pine straw?
yeah, so we get this question a lot about pine straw. You can put pine straw in as a brown source. You don't want it to be all pine straw as your brown source because that's going to make your compost way too acidic. So a little won't hurt, a lot is probably too much.
It also takes longer to break down than other stuff, right?
Forever to break down. So unfortunately in my yard, we don't really have a choice because it's mixed in with the leaves. All right, now all you're going to do is take this back shut and then sit it in a windowsill or somewhere that it does get some light. The things we need for compost, sunlight, air, water, and those are all things that, we always get the question, well, don't things decompose in a landfill? Nope, because the landfill is missing quite a few of those components. So once you take this shut, and then basically you're just going to watch the decomposition happen. Now, you may have to give this a shake in about a week and kind of keep it, if you're in a really sunny window where it's getting a lot of sun, you may want to save one of those spice jars, put a little water in it, and you can just sprinkle a little water in, tape it back up. But this is a pretty quick and easy example of how to do a compost. Now, this is also a good test. You want to see if you can compost? Try it in this little bottle first. What you're going to do is take all that we did and transfer it to a much larger setting in order to do compost at home. Yeah. All right, let me get back to our screen. And so we can share with you. Hopefully I don't shut everything down again. All right, so let's talk about all of those things that we're going to need to put in our compost. And we're going to get to see a quick little video of that. Ada's going to talk us through it.
Perfect. So here are just a few other things besides what we just showed you that you should compost. This recycled paper egg cartons, the egg shells, all kinds of different like Amanda said, paper banana peels, corn husks, all those little bits and bobs.
One moment at a time.
When you're in the kitchen, most of that stuff is long into its fruits and veggies are great. There are some things that you do not want. Please don't
You
put
must
them in.
have. There's just a few little things in here.
Or it will get extremely smelly, and you can draw all kinds of
No, that
critters
don't feel good.
in there. So what we want to avoid is meats, dairy.
No. I have a headache. My
I would
stomach
say
hurts. I just feel overall
a basic
not the
person.
best.
Right. You
Yep.
don't want super thick.
Hey, guys.
Or,
I didn't recognize you
up
at
into
first.
tiny pieces.
Yeah. Well, she's also got
Hey y'all, will you make sure that you're muted, please?
Yep.
If everybody could check their mute, that would be awesome.
I saw her last time. How's it going, Miss Addison?
All right, so let's just do a real quick recap. So for the bottle project, you're just getting a 1-liter bottle. Some scissors or a knife to cut it open. Your brown
So
sugars
dramatic.
and some
I
salt.
love your mask.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's got fish on it. Yeah. Don't let it swim away.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason Mraz. I'm here with Allison from Allison's Adventures, who is with all her might holding this massive heap of compost, which we are about to spread in my garden.
Today I joined multi-Grammy winner Jason Mraz on his organic avocado farm.
Treats and mouth. You skipped the farmer and the table. That's right.
Hey, learn about the importance of composting. So, Jason, I was wondering, what do you think about composting?
I don't think about it. I do about it.
I'm actually here on it right now, and I just wanted to call in and say, can you hear me?
Do
Hello?
you?
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and say that I'm really impressed with your composting here, and I really hope that it keeps inspiring everyone around the world to do their part.
Thank you. Thanks for the acknowledgement, because calling me on this corn phone, I thought you were stalking me.
I totally get it. That was pretty corny, but I get it. Aloha.
Mahalo.
Lucky I got to talk to you. Went to a pile where the food scraps had already broken down, and Jason put me to work. How does this help create life?
In here is trillions of microbes, and when you put it on the soil, you're putting a big old cow plop on the earth that is unleashing trillions of microscopic little farmers that are bartering and trading energies and nutrients with root systems. I'm about to apply compost to my veggies. Hashtag compost life. Add more nutrients to my soil. I want to sequester water and more carbon out of the atmosphere because we know there's way too much of that up there.
So how does composting help protect our waters?
Well, by composting, we improve the soil so it pretty much becomes a sponge. When rain falls onto that soil, the more water we can store in the soil and refill our underground water reserves, the better all of those ecosystems improve, and our runoff then for our streams that feed our rivers, that feed our oceans, from the top down, they start getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. So we do that with our footsteps and our practices at home.
Simply by composting this avocado,
That's correct.
you can protect water.
That's right.
It blows my mind.
What's growing on?
What's growing on?
What's growing on?
This reminds me of a song.
We won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. Compost.
Woo!
Straight out of compost.
Jason taught me an important lesson today. Thank you, Jason. Join in. Go to your community garden. Get dirty.
Right, so hope y'all enjoyed that cute little video. That's Jason Mraz. We like his music, but we really like his composting even more.
Shameless plug. Yeah. Shameless plug for our campaign. If you want to take part in any way, if you're doing anything to help reduce food waste, composting, donating, just meal prepping in your kitchen at home, then we want you to be involved with us. We will give you props. If you give us props, all you have to do is participate and promote the campaign. So you can sign up to be an ambassador on our website.
Yep. And y'all should have already received the PDF.
Did we lose them again?
I think we lost them again. Oh, that's okay. Our video guy will have quite a few little chunks that he can just piece together for YouTube. We'll see if they come back. And if not, tell me where you guys are at. What do you think? What questions do you have? How do you envision being able to replicate this for a library program? I think being able to do the regrowing the vegetables, I think that would be a really easy virtual program. Just a nice quick talk through, something fun to put on Facebook. I also really like the soda pop bottle compost as an online program, because it's stuff that everyone would have at home. So I think that's easily replicated.
So I've seen a couple of people popping on and off. Are we the only ones losing Zoom here recently? This has never actually happened to us. So
It's
I don't know
making
if it has anything to do with my location or I don't know. I got nothing.
okay. So anyway, we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. So let's have some chat time, and you tell us, hopefully you got to see, did everyone get to see both activities? Hopefully we didn't lose anybody during those. And
Cool.
then of course the little composting video, which is just a fun video.
Mm-hmm.
Tell
We
us
got
what
both those.
questions you have though.
So we had the question earlier from Jennifer Smith about canning.
Yeah, what was the question? And that's right when we cut out. I'm sorry.
We wanted to know about what canning recipes do you use? Are those available somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually work pretty closely a lot of the time with Clemson Extension, and they offer canning classes. They offer a ton of online resources that you can go do a little search and you can find them. I use a lot of their stuff. I also just not a product placement or recommendation, since we're not allowed to do that, but just everyone, once you get interested and start researching canning, you'll see the name Ball a lot.
Yes.
Just they have been doing it for years
Stick
and
with
years.
them. Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you're new.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times if you buy a case of their jars, you'll see on there either a book or a website link that they offer recipes as well.
Right. And if you buy any of like their pectins or that kind of stuff, they'll include a whole book of recipes with it. So
You always get really good, solid results with their stuff,
Right.
which is important when you're new to canning.
right.
Yeah. And we, of course, promote the Clemson Extension. If you go on their website, we work closely with them as well. The canning course that we took this summer, it was just a one-day course, and it was virtual, but it talked a lot about different ways to can and kind of guidelines, I guess you could say.
Right.
So look into Clemson Extension as well.
Okay.
With canning, keep it's not like a cake, where with a cake you can like substitute things and just experiment and have fun, and it's okay.
Not with canning. No,
Right,
follow
but-
the directions exactly.
Yeah, with canning, for safety purposes, you want to
Yes.
that you're
Use
doing.
precision. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. As a lifelong canner, I would completely agree with that.
Yeah. All right, looks like there's a question. A native plant garden at my library and added composter.
A nice comment.
Oh yeah, cool.
Nice.
Thanks.
Mostly do
Thanks
adult
for that.
programming. Very
Yeah.
good.
If you need anything, let us know.
Yeah, we're happy to help.
Well, I was going to say, you guys are available to do programs for the public libraries, right?
We absolutely are.
Yeah.
So
So that was part of my reason for wanting to share your stuff. So no, they're a resource for everyone statewide because you're out of DHEC. So
Right.
and that's one of the beauties of virtual programming. You don't have to drive.
yeah, that is one of the nice things about
It's
virtual.
annoying.
Yeah, we now Ada and I are also happy to drive when that option is available. So we have been known to make a
Yeah.
tour around the state in a couple of days. But for right now, the virtual programming is the best option. It looks like maybe Melissa was going to have a native plant pollinator garden as well. We hate that the pandemic has postponed so many of these projects. Some of these are things that if you wanted to kind of try the composter bottle at home, get comfortable with it, get familiar with what you're putting in there. So some of these things
and
are
contact anyone who was going to be involved with that garden that you were going to do and have
Yeah.
them started at home with just this so that they get familiar with what works and what doesn't work. Because when it's on this scale, it's a lot more manageable than when you get a big pile and it starts smelling like sulfur and you're
Yeah.
going,
Exactly.
One of the quick tips when you do get started in your bigger compost piles in the garden, if you notice a really strong smell, or if you notice that there's a lot of extra vermin around, more than likely the fix is add carbon. So 9 times out of 10, when we're troubleshooting compost piles or composters, people have put too much food in there and not enough browns. So usually when in doubt, add more browns. Now, if your compost is really dry, which is usually not, very rarely do we get that problem, then you probably have too many browns. But the key is when you pick compost up out of your pile and you squeeze it, it should feel kind of like a sponge.
right, like this.
Yeah.
Like it should feel like soil on a decent day, not one of those middle of summer dry South Carolina days, but just like if you went outside today and it wasn't raining where you are and you just picked up some soil, you want it to feel it shouldn't feel dry, it shouldn't be wet, you shouldn't end up dripping.
Right,
it should just be nice and slightly
Spongy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to tell when we were doing this demonstration a while back for a student group, one of the students said, "There's creepy crawlies in my compost." You want those. Yeah, those are the things that help break down all of that decaying matter and give you the good nutrients that you need. Creepy crawlies.
So it looks like somebody wants our contact info. We're gonna pop that back up.
Yep,
if you
sure.
can.
Sure.
Maybe we might just make another
Yeah,
accidental
so-
exit.
Yeah, you never know. You should be able to see our screen with our contact information now.
And I will email that out to everyone after the webinar. You'll get the webinar recording as well, and you'll get the webinar survey. If you're interested in canning, note that in the survey, and I will see what I can do to get a Clemson webinar on their canning class. We'll see if we can get that arranged for later in the spring.
Very cool.
Highly recommend.
There's nothing better than seeing all those jars lined up in your pantry shelves.
Yeah, it makes you feel very secure.
Or
Yes.
I'm not the canner. Ada is the canner, but I guess the second best feeling is when someone gifts you those jars.
Right.
Yes, those gorgeous,
Always
beautiful
ready by
jars.
the end of summer for me.
Yeah. Canned goods are always welcome as gifts here.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to stop the recording.